What if I told you that the key to becoming rich is to look poor? I know that must sound crazy to you guys, right? But stick with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand why living in that modest house and driving that old car is going to be your ticket to financial freedom. What's up, everybody? I'm Rashida, your guide to smart money moves. And in today's video, we are going to dive deep into a topic that I guarantee you is going to flip everything you thought you knew about how to build wealth. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, let's go. Today, we're going to explore why trying to look rich could be keeping you broke, how embracing a simpler lifestyle could really skyrocket your savings, and some of the secret habits of millionaires that are going to surprise you. Plus, I'm going to share some practical tips on how to start building real wealth, even if your Instagram feed doesn't look like some luxury magazine. All right, so let's start out by talking about why we're all obsessed with looking rich in the first place. We live in a world where we're all constantly bombarded with these images of wealth. Social media, TV, movies, ads, they're all selling us that same dream that happiness is going to come to us in a Louis Vuitton bag or a Mercedes driver's seat. But here's the kicker. Most of the people that look rich aren't. So let me introduce you to a concept called the millionaire next door. It's based on a book by Thomas Stanley and William Danko, who studied millionaires for years. And what they ended up finding is actually pretty shocking. Most millionaires do not live in mansions and drive fancy cars, okay? They are actually your neighbors that live in modest houses and drive cars that are a few years old. They're not trying to impress anyone because they are too busy building actual wealth. So why do we even fall into this trap of trying to look rich? It's all about what psychologists like to call social proof. We're actually hardwired to fit in with our tribe, because back in the caveman days, prehistoric times, being kicked out of the group actually meant certain death. But today, it just means missing out on Instagram likes. But our brains don't know the difference. So when we see our friends or colleagues with the latest iPhone or a fancy Rolex watch, there is a part of our brain that actually says, quick, you need to buy that too, or you'll be left behind. And so this actually leads us to the hedonic treadmill. And it works like this. You get a raise, you buy a nicer car, all right? You feel great, but that feeling only lasts for about 6 weeks or so. Then you're back to feeling normal. And so you need an even bigger purchase to get that same high on the next go round. Then you're just back to feeling normal. It's a never-ending cycle that will keep you running in place financially. But here's the real secret. True wealth is not about what you go out and spend. It's about the money that you keep and allow to grow. And so now that we understand why we are so tempted to look rich, let's talk about the financial magic that happens when we can resist that urge and embrace looking poor instead. First up is going to be how to avoid lifestyle inflation. Lifestyle inflation is the tendency to automatically increase our spending when our income increases. But here's the thing, if you can keep your expenses flat even as your income is growing, you're not just saving money, you are buying yourself freedom. And so let's break that down with some numbers. Okay, so let's say you're making $50,000 a year and you're comfortably living on $40,000, all right? Now, if you get a 10% raise, if you avoid lifestyle inflation and can keep your expenses at $40,000, you just doubled your savings rate from 20% to 40%. And that extra 20%, it might not seem like much, but over time, that is life-changing money. And so if you invest it wisely, it could mean retiring years or even decades earlier. And so when you're not spending all of your money trying to look rich, you're gonna have a lot more money to invest in assets that can actually make you rich. And so whether it's maxing out your 401k or Roth IRA or investing in low index funds, the money that you're not spending on status symbols can actually be growing and compounding over time. And so let's take a look at a quick example of this. So let's say you're in the market for a new car, all right? You could go for that flashy $80,000 SUV that will certainly turn heads when you're in the Whole Foods parking lot, or you can opt for that reliable, comfortable $30,000 car, all right, that is going to get you from point A to point B just as well. So now let's say you choose that $30,000 car, all right, and you invest the $50,000 difference that you didn't spend getting that luxury car. If you earn an average of 10% on that money, which is in line with the average return in the S&P 500, in 30 years, that $50,000 has grown into $872,000, guys. And that's not a typo, folks. By choosing not to flex with your car choice, you could potentially become a millionaire. And that is just from one decision. And so think about it. Would you rather have a depreciating asset sitting in your driveway, or would you rather have a financial nest egg that could give you financial freedom? That is going to be the power of investing instead of impressing. Now, it is important to note, while 11% is the actual average return of the S&P 500, past performance is no guarantee for future performance. But even if we were to factor in inflation and a more conservative real return, we're still talking about life-changing money here. But it's not just about numbers. There's also a huge psychological benefit: reduced financial stress. While you're not stretching your budget to the limit just to maintain appearances, you have a financial cushion. You have an emergency fund, you have breathing room. And let me tell you, that peace of mind is priceless. You're not lying in bed at night worrying about how you're gonna pay for that designer handbag you bought to impress people you don't even like. Instead, you're going to be sleeping soundly, knowing that you are building real wealth. And I know what some of you guys are thinking: Rashida, this all sounds great in theory, but does anyone really live like this? Let's look at some very famous, extremely wealthy people. Warren Buffett, for example, still owns the exact same house in Omaha, Nebraska that he bought back in the 70s. He paid about $30,000 for it, which is about $250,000 in today's money. And he is a multi-billionaire, one of the richest people on the planet, okay? Or take Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, billionaire many times over. He is notorious for wearing the same gray t-shirt day in and day out, and he does that because he says he does not want to spend time and waste time on thinking about what he's gonna wear. He's too busy figuring out how to make his companies successful and get rich. And I know you're thinking, well, these guys are billionaires, they can afford to be eccentric, all right? And that's a fair point. So let's take a look at some more relatable examples. Meet Paul Navone. Paul worked in a factory for over 50 years, making about $12 an hour. He never earned more than $11,000 a year, never owned a credit card, and lived in the same modest house for most of his adult life. But here's the kicker. In 2018, Paul donated $1 million to the Cumberland College Fund and another $1 million to the St. Augustine College Fund. And so how did he do that? He did that by living below his means and consistently investing in the stock market. Paul never married or had children, so he was actually able to keep his expenses very low. He was so committed to saving that he didn't even own creature comforts like a television. But what's truly remarkable about Paul's story is that he was able to build that wealth on a blue-collar salary. Or consider the story of Sue and Richard Lurch from Michigan. The Lurches lived in this modest 3-bedroom ranch house and drove used cars their entire lives. Sue worked as a librarian and Richard was a school principal. They used to do things like clip coupons. They ate out only on special occasions, and they were really known for their frugal lifestyle. And so when they passed away, they were actually able to leave $10 million to their local community foundation. And while I know that many of you are listening to that story and you're thinking, I don't want to do all of that just to leave my money, and I am in the same camp, but that's what they wanted to do with that money, okay? What would you do with $10 million? So now that we've seen how the pros do it, let's talk about how you can start embracing this stealth wealth mindset in your own life. And so now that we've seen the power of looking poor to build wealth, let's talk about how we can put this in practice into our own life. Remember, this is not about depriving yourself. It's about being intentional with your money and focusing on what truly matters to you. First, we need to change how we think about success. The society that we live in often tells us that success means a big house, a fancy car, and designer clothes. But true financial success, again, is going to be about freedom, security, and peace of mind. And so you're going to have to ask yourself, what does success really mean to you? Does it mean quitting a job that you hate? Does it mean traveling the world, helping your family? Once you're able to define your own version of success, it's going to be a heck of a lot easier for you to ignore that pressure to keep up with the Joneses. Next, we're going to try to focus on experiences over possessions. Research actually shows that experiences bring more lasting happiness than material things. So instead of buying that new gadget, maybe consider putting that money away towards a cooking class, a weekend trip, concert tickets. These experiences are going to create memories that last so much longer than the thrill of any new purchase. And number 3, we're going to practice mindful spending. So before any purchase, let's ask ourselves, will this improve my life? And if that answer is not this big resounding yes, then it's probably not even worth it. And so a cool hack that you can try to implement to help with that is to implement the 48-hour rule. If you still want to buy that thing 2 days later after you first considered it, but you're going to be surprised at just how many must-haves lose their appeal in a very small amount of time. And next, we're going to look at embracing quality over quantity. Looking poor does not mean buying cheap, low quality items. I don't want people to get those things confused. In fact, sometimes spending more on high quality items is going to save you money in the long term. So for example, a well-made $200 pair of boots that will last you 10 years is going to be a much better deal than that $50 pair that you're going to have to replace every single year. And number 5, one of my favorites, is to automate your wealth building. Make saving and investing automatic. And so it goes there every single time you get paid. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to make a decision about it. It's going to be done for you no matter what. This way, you're going to be paying your future self first before you have a chance to spend it on things that you don't really need. And finally, last but not least, is cultivating gratitude, okay? Practice being grateful for what you already have. We're so freaking lucky. We're so freaking lucky to be in the positions that we are in. If you are watching this video, you're in a great position, all right? It's going to be very hard to feel the need of more when you truly appreciate what you already have in your life. And so remember, guys, embracing this stealth wealth mindset, this looking poor mindset, it is not about deprivation. It's about aligning your spending with your long-term goals. And it's about choosing your financial freedom over these fleeting status symbols. All right, now let's get real for a minute. Adopting this stealth wealth mindset is not going to be easy. You are literally going against the grain of society, and that's going to be tough. And so let's talk about some of the challenges that you might face and how to overcome them. The biggest one is going to be social pressure. Your friends may not understand why you're suddenly turning down, expensive nights out or buying the latest gadget. Just be open with your friends about your financial goals, all right? You might be surprised that some of them may be feeling the same financial pressures that you do, and they may want to be along on the ride with you, spending less, saving more, investing. That's something that you guys can link up and talk about. And so remember that a true friend is always going to support your goals and not your spending habits. And so 2 is definitely going to be FOMO, and we're going to experience this the most when we're in our social media accounts, when we see people posting pictures of these extremely lavish vacations or spending on luxury items, going out every other night to a very expensive fancy restaurant. The key to this one is going to just be remember that posts on social media are more like a highlight reel, all right? It's not reality. Try to do a social media detox here and there, or curate your feed that focuses more on what you're trying to achieve financially. Maybe try to start following more financial independence content creators. And another challenge that you're sure to face is going to be immediate gratification versus long-term goals, all right? It's going to be hard to prioritize your future over immediate pleasure. You're going to have to combat this by really visualizing your long-term goals. Create a vision board. Set up something that's going to constantly remind you on your phone of what you're working towards, and try to find low cost or free ways to treat yourself or find pleasure. And another big pressure that you're probably going to face is going to be family expectation. Literally, people that live in the same house with you may have a very different mindset when it comes to money than you do. And so you're just going to have honest conversations about your financial philosophy, what you're looking to achieve. So if they push back, you're going to have to help them understand that you are the one that is going to have to live with the financial consequences that you make in your decision making, and not them. All right, and this next challenge is going to be personal, all right? It's going to be self-doubt. You might start to question if this is all worth it. There are going to be times, especially when your progress is slow in the beginning, you're going to have to track your progress regularly. You're going to have to celebrate any small wins. And remember that wealth building is a marathon, it's not a sprint. You are going to have to believe in and have conviction in what your research is telling you about investing over time, about being a conscious spender over time, and what that end road is very likely to look like for you. All right, we have covered a lot of ground today. So let's do a quick little recap on why looking poor can actually make you rich. You're gonna avoid the trap of lifestyle inflation. You're gonna have more money to invest and grow. You are going to reduce your financial stress and gain peace of mind doing this. And you're gonna join the ranks of the stealth wealth who are able to prioritize their financial freedom over appearances. So I have a little challenge for you. This week, I want you to ask yourself with any purchase, is this moving me closer to or further away from my financial goals? Try for just 1 week and see how it can change your perspective. Hey, if you found this video helpful, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Check out my next video on the 75-15-10 rule. That one is sure to help you gain control of your finances. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you. I'm out. Let's get up here and say hello. Oh. Yeah, look at the camera. Bye. Bye, everybody. We'll see you guys on the next one.